Welcome back to Crit and Crit. I am Axion.
I'm Scint.
And we are continuing our playthrough of Undertale and our discussion of Redwall by Brian Jacques.
Last time, I wasted most of the episode by looking at puppies. Which, to be fair, you kept running into— Hi, Papyrus! I kind of just want to sit here and enjoy Bone Trestle and say nothing over it, but that would be counterproductive.
Yep.
Anyway, the topic I wanted to point out today is actually incredibly relevant to Undertale. The degrees to which one can be declared a pacifist. So, as you might have noticed, Axion has gone through this playthrough so far without actually bothering to attack anything. A pure pacifist. However, when it actually comes to, in-world practicality, it's often found that some people are pacifists right up until the moment that their life is threatened, in which case they will act in their own self-defense. So, martial pacifists, as TV tropes would put it, are also, I will find a way to fight where you're expending your energy and I don't actually have to hit you, but etc., etc. The point is that many times people will claim to follow some sort of ethos of nonviolence, and some of them hold more strictly to that than others. Do you mind if I quote a story you told me from one of your old D&D campaigns?
Sure. I don't know precisely which one you're referring to, but I'm sure I will find out and remember here in a short second.
Yeah, you said you had a blind bard in one of your games who was a staunch pacifist who, and I quote, said, "My pacifism greatly benefits from the fact that I cannot see the results of my actions."
Ah, yes. Yes. I can't remember his name right now. But yes, I remember the character in question.
But, yeah, so this is actually really important to Redwall because, well, when we are introduced to the creatures of Redwall Abbey, despite the fact that they greatly revere Martin the Warrior, they don't actually have any weapons. Martin's sword is such a big deal. It's literally the only sword the Abbey has ever had. The only person who lives there who actually thinks about fighting is Constance the Badger. And, well, then later Matthias, but yeah. But when rumors start circulating and people are warned, hey, Clooney the Scourge is marching down the road and will be here soon, a good chunk of the Abbey outright refuses to believe them, and then they start panicking. Their first thought is, maybe we should run, maybe Clooney will spare us. Only Matthias, at the time, says, well, obviously we fight them. But, well, how exactly can you get essentially a commune of creatures who have never been in a fight beyond mommy, he took more cheese in their lives to fend off a renegade army?
And there's a lot of effort that ends up going into the eventual training of people to defend themselves when push comes to shove and they reach the point of realizing, yeah, no, Clooney is actually real. It's not just a boogeyman. It's not just a story to scare kids with. And he does actually mean to do harm to the people of the Abbey. And we can't, just stand by and do nothing. Not unless we really just want to surrender completely to the incoming force of a bandit raider and his hodgepodge army of thieves.
So, yeah, there's some very quick scrambling to get anything resembling weaponry put together. Garden tools, I believe, are converted. And there's a lot of wooden staves being used because, well, we've got sticks, we can work with that. And it takes a lot of effort to get them into something resembling a halfway competent guard. They mostly benefit from the fact that it's a siege and they're on the inside and they have a plentiful supply of food. When they have the high ground, hello Obi-Wan. But yeah, there's really no pretending that these are actual hardened warriors, with again the exception of Constance, who is now at the Abbey to be, have a nice peaceful life, but she's not gonna pretend that this is not a threat to be dealt with. And then Matthias.
And even
I forgot about this. I completely forgot this was in the game.
Well, it's a random thing. It doesn't always happen. I just got lucky. Yeah, normally this is where the riverboat dude is, but I haven't activated it.
Okay.
But, yeah, Matthias is not a trained warrior. He's just a kid with gusto, basically.
With gusto and prophecy on his side. Because, basically, the instant he eventually gets the sword, he becomes an extremely competent swordsman. Though, I'm not actually sure if he does, considering remember how he does actually defeat Clooney. It's not with swordplay. It's by cutting the rope on the bell.
He only really gets into 2 actual fights with the sword. One is that, where he basically keeps Clooney moving at the end of the story, and is less defeating him with swordplay and more, as you said, using the environment against him.
And also Clooney's own hallucinations, because remember, Matthias apparently has a very strong resemblance to Martin the Warrior, about whom Clooney has been having, prophetic dreams of his own doom. So it's not just he's using the terrain against Clooney, it's Clooney is also losing his mind.
Yep. And the only other fight he actually has is against Asmodeus. Which
again, he uses the terrain. He
hides
in a hole.
He doesn't actually fight Asmodeus. He digs a hole through a wall that has some roots in it that constrict the area so that him and is it Logalog that's with him at the time? It's one of the shrews.
I think it's Logalog. Which is still weird, because I know in later books Logalog is just the honorary title for a chieftain.
Yeah. But anyway, it's just the 2 of them, and the 2 of them can squeeze through this hole that Matthias digs, but Asmodeus isn't big enough to move through quickly, so he can only just get his head through, and he's working to get his body through, and basically while he's stuck in that position, Matthias is able to kill him. So, for all that it plays up the idea that Matthias is this legendary inherited warrior, he gets into remarkably few fights. And those that he does, he wins solely through basically his improv skills.
So, to go over the stick here, so we fought our way through the test of mind, and we fought our way through the test of strength. But yeah, I guess honestly, I think it's mostly that giving Matthias the honorary title of Abbey champion is mostly because they didn't really have people willing to actually consider this sort of thing because they'd been in such a peaceful area that they'd never had to think about it. But they do have other people in the area who are more willing to fight. Like, Constance is outright just, I will beat the living tar out of you if you threaten me. So, no pretense to pacifism there. She's happy to live in peace at the Abbey as long as there's no need for it, but the instant there's a threat, the gloves are off and Mama Badger gonna throw down. And then we have Basil Staghair. Just the eccentric old war vet who lives out in the forest, and for most of the book, I don't think we actually see him fight so much as get into combat situations and dodge, and get them to fight each other. Which kind of leads into to the stall I was talking about of I will get into the fight, but I will not land a blow of violence. My job is to waste your time and resources, and win the fight through attrition. And I don't think Clooney's army is used to that, or the fact that, you know, Basil knows the terrain like the back of his hand, because he just runs circles around them. I do like Papyrus. On the other hand, we do have actual pacifist characters like Squire Julian, who, again, completely stays out of the conflict.
Yep. He even won't actually, involve himself in the possible conflict with, Captain Snow. He just sends the, he sends Matthias, and the Shrews to negotiate on his behalf.
Well, remember, he and the captain had been having a feud. He was just like, well, tell him to apologize to me, and then I'll think about talking to him. Blah, blah, blah. You know, high school crap.
Yep.
I think we should maybe worry about Papyrus sometimes. But, yeah, so, in the end, the Redwallers end up fighting pretty hard for a place that is, again, mostly self-described pacifists, which, to be fair, again, you do that when you're home and everything you know is threatened, and they don't really have any option, because it's not a case of if maybe we can run away, Clooney's army would just hunt them down and capture and enslave them. They can't surrender. Clooney would.
Even if they wouldn't hunt them down, where else are they going to go? They're going to be out in the wilderness, away from the safety of the Abbey, at the mercy of what all lives out in the woods? Giant snakes, predator creatures that are not that different from Clooney's army, like the weasels and the foxes. What good would running away do? They just trade one danger for another. And given that Clooney's first thing he did when he got there was to get all of those local hostile creatures under his command, it would effectively be the same as just Clooney hunting them down himself, just with an extra layer of separation.
So I think the best message to take from this is the idea that pacifism is a wonderful ideal, but the world ultimately doesn't allow it to be a solution to everything. If you face something like Clooney's army, you really don't have any recourse to being able to defend yourself because, well, the abbot tries negotiating and talking him down. Clooney just reads this as, well, you must be a doormat. So, yeah, it's just... As much as we wish we could use our words and talk through everything, violence sometimes has to be the answer. It can be your last resort answer, but people don't listen to things that they can ignore. Like, this repeats often through history. Revolutions don't happen out of nowhere. They happen after everything else has been tried and concerns have still not been met. People are still dying for no reason. Something's gonna give. And in the end, most people are going to want, to live. So, If you create a situation where they have no recourse other than violence to preserve their own life, it's time to get Mr. Choppy Chop out from the French Revolution, ain't it?
To quote Martin Luther King in a oft-used and sometimes abused quote, a riot is the language of the unheard. People do not resort to... Most people, let's clarify, do not resort to such extreme actions and expressions of hostility unless they are feeling that they have no other option. Nobody wants to have a revolution. Nobody wants to have a riot. Nobody wants to stand out in the cold or the dark or get pepper sprayed by cops or anything of that count.
Also, on that note, is this... When we talk about Martin Luther King, since we're on that subject, he's very widely regarded these days, but he's also very heavily cherry-picked. Yes. Because what I think people don't really want to acknowledge is the fact that, you know why people want to talk about him now?
Because he's dead?
Because if they talk about him, they can downplay Malcolm X and look at Martin Luther King as the, quote, acceptable form of protest. While history basically shows, since they tried to do things that could theoretically be ignored with peaceful protest, Martin Luther King's, that is, Malcolm X advocated things that they can't ignore because they will find any excuse to preserve the status quo.
There's also the fact that in his day, King was not seen as the person doing protest correctly. He was seen as a threat and a problem, and I'll try and find a copy of it when I edit this. There was a strip of him saying, I plan to do a comic strip, like a satirical comic. Of him saying, we plan to do another peaceful protest tomorrow, while he's talking to, an interviewing reporter, and the background is full of just wreckage and damage, and the city's on fire and everything. And this is extremely similar language to stuff that was used about a lot of the protests in the past few years, like the BLM protests, the...
Oh, and don't get me started on how often people have been caught as, false flags with that. I will go to a protest for something that I disagree with, and pretend to be part of the crowd so I can frame them for trouble.
Yep.
And the fact that people do that is awful, not only because it's undermining, basic rights for people, but it also lends a lot of credence to out there stupidity conspiracy theories. Because, well, if I could do such a tactic, someone else has probably done it, and therefore I can never be wrong.
Yep, and people have... People have been spotted leaving out weapons and bricks in hopes that people will find them and use them to cause damage. People have been found following the protest groups and causing wreckage in their wake without actually being part of the protest. And most poignant of all to this particular discussion, there have been multiple incidents of reporters who have been caught finding interesting ways to make things look worse than they are. There's a fairly famous photo of a burning part of the city that people have now found the origin of is a semicircle of reporters kneeling down on the ground, taking pictures through a tiny pile of burning trash from a knocked-over trash can. And nothing else in the area is damaged.
Yeah. So, yeah, that went places. But I do think it's an important thing to look at, because, like, we don't want to teach kids that you want to just turn into a bully who beats people up whenever they disagree with you, but at some point, as many kids throughout their school career will unfortunately learn, bullies have learned how to hide from the system in such ways that sometimes the only way to get them to stop is to abandon your pretense of pacifism and give them a good bop on the schnoz. You'll probably get in trouble because life is not fair. But, yeah.
And that is, unfortunately, the nature of things.
That's honestly the problem with a lot of bullies. Those who know how the system works, know how to exploit the system, have the system on their side, and it will not work to defend you. Therefore, the system is flawed, and that raises a lot of questions about when is it appropriate to subvert the system and take matters into your own hands. And, well, honestly, if it's getting a middle school snot-nosed brat to stop being a little punk, obviously their parents aren't doing anything. And obviously they're not listening to anything the teachers are trying and have learned how to hide it from the teachers, so whenever the teachers try to do something about... I'm good.
Would you like to take a break?
I'm not sure there's anything else relevant to say on the topic right now.
So we will give Scint a little opportunity to kind of blow off some steam, and we will see you next time. Have a good day. However, whenever you see this video. Later.